Welcome back to Slingshot the Podcast. Today's episode is entitled My Vote Don't Count. And I'm here to tell you that our votes do count and they matter. And here we are in a judicial election year here in the Commonwealth. Every odd year, we are voting for judges. We are voting for our local electeds and also our municipal elected officials. This could be mayors. This could be district attorneys. This could be school board. We have a lot of important elections coming up this November 4th. And so right now, I want to get into the judiciary. You heard Charles Gregory earlier talking about the judicial branch, that third branch of government, the one that doesn't get as much attention as the others. We think about the executive branch the most, or we're thinking about the legislative. But it's that judicial branch, it's that quiet, silent, but on it. And so we need to make sure that we are out here voting in all these elections. So in the previous segment, we were talking about, the times that these kids today are living in and how they're kind of disengaged from the political process because we're not making it easy for them in this moment. It's not something I'd want to be involved in if I didn't have to be in this moment. And so it reminds me, and, I want to set us in this mode of the fact that, John Lewis, our hero, definitely one of my heroes, the late, great Congressman John Lewis, he said that the vote is the most powerful, nonviolent change agent that we have in a democratic society. And so we can't forget that. That is very important in this moment. We cannot forget how important the vote is. And even when you don't think your vote is counting or it matters, it is. Believe me, your vote matters. And the fact that, we can continue to behave and hope that democracy continues on, that we can continue to deepen democracy in this moment. And what gives me hope is the vote, because as long as we have the vote, we have hope. So I want to get into this right now. I'm going to do my little Why Courts Matter presentation. So I've been traveling all over the Commonwealth. I've been putting lots of miles on my car. And I've been doing these Why Courts Matter presentations because civics is no longer in our schools. Our kids aren't learning it in the same way that we may have as Generation X. We got a little bit. We had 10th grade, 12th grade government, et cetera. So we got to see a little bit of this. Today, not so much. And so we really need to make sure if we're going to get people to come out and vote in a judicial election where they don't know who these judges are, what they do, what it's all about, we have to provide them the civic education necessary to actually want to come out, leave the dorm room on a Tuesday. It might be a little chilly on a Tuesday in November. Leave the dorm room, come out and vote in this judicial election. And this is why. So I'm going to set us historically because I'm a history buff, and I hope some of you out there watching are history buffs as well. And you're probably seeing a picture come across your screen right now. It's old school, it's black and white. And if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of this picture that I'm showing you today, and those of you who are just listening in, it's an old truck. It's from the 1950s. And in the 1950s, in the United States of America, we had Chief Justice Earl Warren of the United States Supreme Court overturning so much of the Jim Crow laws that we had, remnants of slavery, remnants of black codes. Jim Crow laws were prohibiting black folks from going into the same movie theaters, using the same doors, drinking out of the same water fountains, attending the same types of schools, right? And it was the notion that we could be separate and still be equal. Well, we know that was a false.
Separate but equal, yeah.
Yeah, there is no separate but equal. That's not a thing. So you have this visual here of this old time, 1950s, really wasn't all that long ago, in the 1950s, where Chief Justice Earl Warren and his court of the United States Supreme Court were overturning Jim Crow with cases such as Brown versus Board of Education. And what did Brown versus Board of Education allow? It allowed for us to attend the same schools, that we no longer needed to be separated, that there, although there's always going to be a need and a desire and a definite desire for an HBCU, that we didn't have to have our own colleges because we weren't permitted to attend the PWIs, the predominantly white institutions, right? So Brown versus Board of Education ensured that separate is not, equal. We have to come together. This is the end of segregation. So this was upsetting to some folks, especially the John Birch Society. And if you saw that picture I put up there, you saw that these billboards went up in the sky down south and also up north as well, saying that the Chief Justice should be impeached, unhappy with decisions coming out of his court. Not only Brown versus Board of Education, but Loving v. Virginia. And Loving v. Virginia allowed for folks to marry whoever they love, no matter the race, right? So these were the types of cases being heard by the United States Supreme Court and being overturned. And some of them unanimously, right? So full agreement by all 9 Supreme Court justices. So in this time with this overturning of Jim Crow, it's inciting some folks that aren't in favor of integration, right? They're in favor of staying segregated, staying separate. And so they wanted to impeach Chief Justice Earl Warren. Well, why am I talking about the United States Supreme Court when we're supposed to be learning about why I should be voting for these Pennsylvania judges? Well, because if we don't learn from our history, we are doomed to repeat it. And in Pennsylvania, we did just that. In 2018, we had state legislators in Harrisburg wanting to impeach our Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices, upset about their decisions. What decision really ticked them off? The decision to overturn a very gerrymandered congressional map. That incited some folks in Harrisburg that represent other places across the Commonwealth. So much so they wanted to impeach the 3 Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices that you will see on your ballot this November 4th. Well, that attempt to impeach the Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices was unsuccessful. There was an attempt, it failed, but that didn't stop folks who wanted to attack the independent judiciary. The next step was to try to gerrymander the judiciary. So I quickly want to show you, I've done this in a previous episode, so if you missed it, I'm going to come back to it. I wanted you to see this map that was so gerrymandered that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said that we need to throw this out and we need to draw a new map ourselves. We can't allow legislators to do it because they can't do it fairly. So if you're seeing your screen right now, and if you're watching the video, you see what this map looks like. In Pennsylvania at the time, this is 2017, 2018, we had 18 congressional seats based upon population. So we had 18 congressional seats throughout the entire Commonwealth, a lot of them in southeastern Pennsylvania because that's where the population is. And if you're looking at this map, you see a section of this map in which the city of Reading is the 5th largest city in Pennsylvania, home to a lot of Black and brown folks. The city of Reading in Berks County was taken out of where it is and put into the homogeneous white area of Lancaster County. Now, why would you want to take the Black and brown folks, pack them all together, and then put them into a whole nother congressional district that's not even close to them or have similar interests or
Let's
part of
go.
their contiguous area?
That's right.
Why would you want to do that?
Whitewash them all out of there. They don't have literally. I mean, Stevie Wonder can see what they're trying to do with that. Absolutely, yeah.
Right. It's the dilution
Absolutely.
of the voting power of those Black and brown folks.
100%.
You stop them from being able to choose an elected official of their choosing, right? You stop them from that. So this was a very gerrymandered map. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, no, this can't be. When this map was in place, there were 13 Republicans and 5 Democrats elected to Congress from this map.
From this map,
From this
13 Republicans
and 5 Democrats. Now, Pennsylvania is supposed to be a purple state.
Yeah.
And so if you're a purple state, you would think that there shouldn't be such a big difference between Republicans and Democrats. Well, when the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, okay, we're going to help out here and we're going to make sure that there is a map that is fair and ungerrymandered, they instituted this map that you all are seeing if you're watching the video here today. And as you can tell, this is a much better map. Contiguous areas. The city of Reading is in Berks County where it belongs. It's not in Lancaster with other folks where it shouldn't be. It makes a lot more sense. Now, this map, still 18 congressional seats. After this map, we had an election. And after we voted in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvanians voted for 9 Democrats and 9 Republicans based on this map. And that makes a lot more sense.
A lot more sense.
So that's gerrymandering. That's redistricting. That's reapportionment. This is what was very upsetting to some folks in Harrisburg. So the next attempt was to try to change the way that we, as very powerful Pennsylvanians, get to elect our judges.
Right.
I want you all to hear me say this. Pennsylvania, we are super powerful.
Yeah.
We are one of only 7 states in the entire country. We get to elect all of our judges and justices in partisan elections, every single one.
Right.
From the minor courts all the way up to the Supreme Court, we have that power. Wow. And if you've been voting for 20 years or more in the Commonwealth, you've had the ability to put all 31 appellate and intermediate appellate court judges on a bench. All 31.
I want you to say that one more time.
Yeah.
Because this goes back to how important it is for voting during the election of judges.
Yes.
That is one of the only. That's during a primary. Is doing a primary?
So you get to vote in the primary and the general election.
And a general election, right? but the support amplifies, like maybe Congress, the House, or whatever, and the presidency. No one talks about the judges. I just don't understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they matter.
You think?
They matter, right?
Judges matter.
They matter.
Hashtag judges matter.
Courts matter. Hashtag too, right?
Yeah.
So House Bill 38 was an attempt to gerrymander the judiciary. They wanted to stop us as powerful Pennsylvania voters from voting for all of our judges and justices and only allowing us to vote for 3. 1 on the Commonwealth Court, 1 on the Superior, and 1 on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So instead of voting for all 31 of those folks, we'd only get 3, 1 from each court. Based upon maps that would have been drawn by who? Legislators. And we know what happens when you allow legislators to draw a map.
Yeah.
So I'm saying if I have the ability to vote for 31 judges, I want to vote for 31, not for 3.
Not for 3, absolutely.
Not for 3. Give me all 31. Give me the option for all 31 of them.
Absolutely. Because they might give you the worst 3. they give you the worst 3 to judge. Oh, well, you did vote, right? Yeah, you voted for the bottom of Cracker Barrel, right? You voted the crack of the bottom. No.
Yeah. So House Bill 38, it was going to be a constitutional amendment change. And, we have a constitution here in Pennsylvania. We have a Pennsylvania Constitution.
Yeah, we supposed to.
And actually, the Pennsylvania Constitution gives us more rights and freedoms than even the United States Constitution.
That's right.
Gives us more rights and freedoms than even that. And so they wanted to change the Pennsylvania Constitution, amend it to stop us from voting for all of our judges so that we can only vote for 3 of those appellate court judges. Now, that was going to be a problem. And we knew as a throwback, a fight back table, a group that got together, 150 organizations got together in 2018, 2019, 2020, got together and said, we've got to stop that question from appearing on people's ballots in Pennsylvania. Because if it appears there, they're going to say yes, because it's going to be worded in a way that sounds good. Yeah. People figure, if it's on my ballot, it must be okay, right? It made my ballot, so let me just say yes to it. And Pennsylvanians, that's what we do. We say yes to ballot referendum questions and constitutional amendment questions.
Which is another underrated voting kind of, idea that they don't amplify, right? Is the home rule laws and all of that. They don't tell you, preempt you to say, hey, this is what this means. Right. So a lot of people, if we even think about the reading level of certain people, they read this stuff and be like, I don't even know what this is, right? So they may have went online, went on the radio and hear somebody say, just vote yes to everything.
Right.
So that's what they do.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Well, we were successful and we defeated House Bill 38 and you never saw it on your ballot. And it was so successful, we made the front page of the New York Times.
Fantastic.
So, score 1 for the good guys.
There you go. We need that.
Score 1 for the good guys. All right. So that was the second attempt. The first attempt, again, was to impeach them. When that didn't work, they tried to change the way you, as a powerful Pennsylvania voter, get to elect them. Well, what have they moved on to now? They've moved on to an anti-retention campaign. An anti-retention campaign so that you would vote no on those 3 justices who voted to overturn that gerrymandered map. All right. So Pennsylvania, just a little background on Pennsylvania. We have the oldest courts in the nation. We're the oldest state, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So we have the oldest courts in the nation. In Pennsylvania, we have 7 Supreme Court justices compared to the United States Supreme Court that has 9, right? So this is the difference between the federal courts and the state courts.
Yeah.
Our judges, we elect them. On the appellate court level, they're elected on 10-year terms. So unlike the United States Supreme Court, where they're there for a lifetime and they're appointed there and confirmed there to be there, in Pennsylvania, we vote. They serve a 10-year term, and they're done in partisan elections, meaning you'll see a D or an R after these judges or justices named the first time we ever vote for them in a partisan election. Well, after they've been on the bench for 10 years, it shouldn't really matter what political party they belong to. We should be judging them based upon the decisions they've been making and how they're interpreting the Pennsylvania Constitution. And if they're being fair, then you would think you'd want to retain a judge or justice, right? Because, again, I'll say this. Judges and justices, they don't wear red robes. They don't wear blue robes. They wear black robes for the people and for the black and white in the Constitution, right? So, an anti-retention campaign has been launched by some right-wing folks, including Pennsylvania's richest man, Jeffrey Daz, has given some money. Elon Musk had given some money at some point to this anti-retention campaign. So it's an opportunity for, big money folks to get in here and disrupt what we have going on in Pennsylvania. So currently on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, there are 5 Democrats and 2 Republicans. That's how it shakes out in this moment. So we've talked about the attacks. The first one was the attack trying to impeach Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices, just kick them off of the bench. The next was trying to change the way we vote for them. And now it is this anti-retention campaign that our retention elections, when judges and justices are done with their 10-year term, they stand for retention, right? They're going to stand in front of you, right, the voter, and say, give me 10 more years. That's what's on your ballot. You won't see a D or R after their name. You'll just see their name and a yes or no box, and you choose yes or no to retain them for another 10-year term. Now, they also could age out in Pennsylvania. So when you hit 75 years old, you actually age out, and then you come off the bench and there's a vacancy. Where in the United States Supreme Court, they're there for a lifetime and can stay as long as they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think? Is that understandable here? We're breaking it down?
Yeah, I'm learning a lot. That's why I learn while I'm on the show. Well, as we say in education, especially as it relates to urban ed, which was my master's, is a term called experiential learning. Learn through experience, right? You're learning by doing, so to speak. And so literally you learn on the show.
Yeah. All right. Sure. Good. I'm glad. So on your ballot this November 4th or before, if you're voting by mail, you're going to see 3 names under the Supreme Court, because there's other retentions as well for you to vote on. You're going to see the names of Christine Donahue. You're going to see Kevin Doherty.
Yeah.
And you're going to see David Wecht. All 3 of those justices were elected 10 years ago as Democrats, and they're going to be on your ballot this time around with no D or R after their name, just them, their name, and a yes or no box. And you've got to decide for yourself, your family, your community, what you would like to do about that. And yeah, so if I just threw it out to you right now, if you had a ballot in front of you right now, what do you think you would do?
I'm voting. They need to come back.
They need to come back.
They need to come back. Yeah, absolutely. I do have this thing about being cognizant in terms of age. If you're cognizant and they know exactly what they're doing, let's bring them back. Let's retain them.
Yeah, retain. That's
let's
it.
retain them.
Let's retain them. And I'll tell you this, throughout history here in Pennsylvania, since we've been voting for judges and justices this way, since 1968, every single justice on the Supreme Court has been retained, except for one. That was Justice Nigro. This was 20 years ago. There were some folks really upset at the state legislature about passing a midnight pay raise for all 3 branches of government in Harrisburg. And the next election was Justice Nigro's election for retention, standing for retention. And Pennsylvanians said, oh, we're mad at somebody, and we're going to take it out on Justice Nigro. And so he was not retained. And that was the first time that has happened, and the only time that has happened in Pennsylvania history.
He caught the strays. Huh?
He caught the stray.
He caught the stray.
Yeah, he caught the stray.
Wow.
So there's levels to this, right? There's levels to our court system. And, usually people associate courts with maybe the worst day of their life, maybe not so much the best day of their life. And if we think about the levels of courts that we have here in Pennsylvania, it starts at the bottom of a pyramid here. We're going to show you a picture so you have this graphic. At the bottom of the pyramid are the minor courts. And we call them minor courts, but when they can sentence you to jail, that's not so minor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are the courts that would hear cases about speeding tickets or unpaid rent, moving violations, evictions. Those are the types of cases that are heard by magisterial courts and then municipal courts. There are magisterial courts and municipal courts at the minor level. Philadelphia has them called municipal courts, and the rest of the state calls them magisterial courts. And here's a fun fact about magisterial courts. You could run to be a magisterial court judge in 2 years if you want to.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a lawyer.
Oh, I'm running.
You don't need to be a lawyer. You don't need to go to law school. You don't even have to graduate from college.
I'm running. Yeah, y'all can call me Your Honor.
It pays more than $100,000 a year.
Oh, I'm running.
To be a magisterial judge in Pennsylvania. And it is typically a retirement job for former police officers.
Wow. I can see that.
It's their retirement kind of job.
I can see that. They know the law.
They're supposed to know the law. Yeah, they're supposed to know the law. Yeah.
Or someone who came out the service, maybe.
Someone comes out the service. Okay. Yeah. So what they have to do, so if you are someone who runs to be a magisterial judge and you are elected, then you need to pass, and you don't have you're not a lawyer, you're not a judge. You need to pass a baby bar, like the Kim Kardashian bar.
The baby bar.
Yeah, pass that Kim Kardashian bar.
Baby bar. Oh,
and then you will become a magisterial judge in Pennsylvania.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice little retirement job.
It is. It is. It is. Side note, though.
Mm-hmm.
All these court shows,
Yeah.
is that kind of what that is? I mean, do they?
Those are magisterial court level.
I figured that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was like the Judge Judy cases
Yeah,
we hear.
right.
Those would be like your minor courts.
Got you. So that's how you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this is how we connect the dots, right? And so we're just walking you through this process.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Right. You want to be Judge Judy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Magisterial court. You get your start right there.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Sure.
So if your case isn't heard by a minor court and it's a more serious criminal or civil case, it's going to be heard by our trial courts. And that's where you have a jury. And that's where we get called in for jury duty. And that's on our Court of Common Pleas. And those folks are elected, like I'm saying, we're voting for every single one of these folks. Court of Common Pleas judges, they're going to hear, a different type of a case. They'll have some appeals cases they might hear from the minor courts. They're going to hear cases about maybe divorce, child custody, landlord-tenant disputes that are larger, property disputes, things like that.
Divorce court.
Yeah,
Okay.
that too.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. You are the father.
Who gets the? Yep. Who's the father? Yep.
You are the father. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm learning. See, we gotta learn. We
gotta learn. Here we
walking
go.
you through it.
Here
Let's
we go.
go.
A bill is a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. Here we go. I need a song. So the Court of Common Pleas. So they're going to hear most of your cases. Minor courts, courts of common pleas. We elect these folks either in districts or we elect them by our county that we live in. Now, after those two levels of courts, we get into our intermediate appellate and appellate courts. So the Commonwealth Court and the Superior Court are those two intermediate appellate courts. And they can hear cases that really impact our lives, right? They're going to hear appeals from the lower courts. Maybe a decision wasn't favorable and someone said, let's appeal this based upon, something wrong happened with the lawyer or what may happen. So these two courts, they're going to hear some real serious cases. And I'm going to give you an example of those in a moment. But they're very important and we get to elect them. We get to elect these appellate court judges. And then finally, our Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. It is the highest level of courts here in the Commonwealth. And you probably have a better shot of winning the Powerball than actually having your case heard by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania.
Wow. That's heavy.
Yeah. There's one thing I didn't mention, and that is what could happen if Pennsylvanians decide that they want to do something that they usually don't do and not retain these judges and justices. This is the problem. If Pennsylvania,
that's scary.
You decide not to retain these judges for some reason, they aren't running against somebody else. There's no challenger. The seat just becomes vacant.
Yeah.
It's just an empty bench. And if you're trying to get your case heard before a court in a speedy fashion, you might have a wait.
You're going to sit.
You're going to sit there waiting on your eviction case or whatever it may be. So there is no replacement for these folks immediately. There is no challenger for retention. What would happen is the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, he would have the ability to appoint someone in an interim position. But the kicker is the Pennsylvania Senate would have to agree with his choice. And that's probably not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. Yeah.
Again, a Powerball. You probably have a better shot at the Powerball.
How about that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what that means is the seat will be vacant. And vacant for how long? More than 2 years.
Wow.
It'll be vacant until the next judicial election in 2027. Yeah. So you've heard all of the things you need to know, I think, in this moment.
No, this was great. And you already know how slow the system is. So you want to keep them in there. You retain them so they can hurry up and get through all of this nonsense. This is crazy. Wow.
Well, courts matter.
Courts matter.
Yeah. All right. So, when we think about the courts, we have to make sure that we are humanizing the courts because so frequently, we think about the courts and it's so abstract or we don't associate it with real human beings whose cases are being heard. But these are real human beings who have their cases heard before these judges, on these benches. And one of those individuals is someone we've highlighted before on this show, Miss Vivian Applewhite out of Philadelphia. She was the lead litigant in a voter ID case. 2012, some legislators in Harrisburg wanted a more restrictive voter ID. Please hear me when I say this. Pennsylvania, we already have a voter ID law, and it works. And only citizens are being registered to vote, and only citizens are voting in our elections, okay? We are having free and fair elections here in the Commonwealth. But in 2012, we had legislators in Harrisburg who wanted a more restrictive voter ID. They wanted that for political purposes. How do I know that? It was caught on a hot microphone when the Speaker of the House in Pennsylvania said voter ID was how Mitch Romney was going to win the next election, right?
Wow.
So they knew that if you had a more restrictive voter ID, it was going to disenfranchise certain people. Well, who are these certain people? Miss Vivian Applewhite is one of them. We're going to put her picture up there. Look at this sweet woman, right?
Yeah.
In her 90s, lead litigant in a case against a more restrictive voter ID. It was going to stop her from voting and having a perfect voting record. She had voted for every single president since FDR. Wow. And it was going to stop her from voting because it was going to require her to have an ID she couldn't come up with. Now, if you think about someone who was born in the early 1900s,
Jim Crow, here we go.
Especially a black woman, likely not born in a hospital, likely has no access to her birth certificate.
That's right.
So it was going to be very difficult for her to get that. And when you're 90 years old, you're probably not driving. You're probably not going to the DMV. You probably have no one who wants to take you to the DMV and wait in line for 3 hours with you.
That's right.
So she wasn't going to be able to get an ID that way. At 90 years old, you're probably not burning up the internet. You might not even have broadband access. So there were many reasons why she was not going to be able to have the ID that was going to be required of her. And it was going to disenfranchise her. And it was the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court that said, you must throw out this 2012 more restrictive voter ID law because it is unconstitutional. It is against the Pennsylvania Constitution. And that's exactly what happened. So shout out to Miss Vivian Applewhite. There's a picture of her as well. Here's another one of her at 100 years old. She lived a long, beautiful life. She's since passed away. So let's close out with one more case that I want you all to hear about. We want to make these courts real for you. We want you to see real human beings, lives impacted by decisions these bigger courts, these statewide courts are making, because we are going to be able to vote for them for vacancies that exist and also for retention. So I'm going to take your attention now. Here's a picture of Miss Kiera. Kiera lives in Delaware County. Well, she did at least at one point. I don't want to I don't put all her information out here in the street. But Kiera was someone who did what you're supposed to do. She requested a vote by mail ballot. She wanted to vote by mail, but did not receive it in time. So what Kiera Tucker did is she went to her polling location on election day and requested a provisional ballot. That's what you're supposed to do. If you ever show up to the polls and they can't find you, you're missing, they say you're not registered, whatever the reason may be, you always request a provisional ballot. And that's what she did. She voted it. And after she voted that provisional ballot, she was notified by somebody that her vote was being contested. They were challenging her provisional ballot. They thought it should not count. Now, this is 2020. And if we recall what was happening in 2020 at the height of COVID, folks were voting by mail a lot because it was the safe way to vote without having to leave your house. Well, someone contested her ballot, said that it shouldn't count. And it was the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, right, that said count Kiera's ballot. It's a good ballot. It should count. She voted it properly. There's no issues. Count it. And we know how the 2020 election shook out at the end. So courts matter. Courts really matter.
I like that you mentioned a provisional ballot. I don't think a lot of people know what that is, especially if you're being questioned about your eligibility.
Right.
That's your right to be able to say that I want this. And I think people get intimidated and don't necessarily know their rights for voting.
They don't know their right. And we'll tell people that we register to vote, first-time registrants, we always let them know after we register them to vote. The first time you go vote in a new precinct or the first time ever, you need to bring an ID with you. Yeah. So you need to bring that ID with you. And so if you ever denied voting because you don't have your ID or they can't find you in the rolls or you thought you got registered to vote, but maybe you dropped off the voting rolls because you haven't voted in so long, always request a provisional ballot and vote it. And that is your right.
That's right.
That is your right. So speaking of rights and freedoms, I have a copy there.
Yeah.
I'll put this up. Mm-hmm. So let's put this up here so you can see. We have here the United States Supreme Court, the U.S. Constitution, The United States Constitution. This little booklet, you can read this in 20 minutes probably.
If that,
this whole little thing. This is it. We think that the Constitution is this big, bad document.
That's right.
It's this little, right? So these are your rights and freedoms granted to you by the federal government to protect you from the federal government as well. Mm-hmm. And then you have your Pennsylvania Constitution. Look how much bigger this Constitution is than the U.S. Constitution. And why is that? Because the U.S. Constitution are your basic rights, right? That is the floor of all of your rights and freedoms. It is the Pennsylvania Constitution that can actually grant you more rights and freedoms than even the U.S. Constitution can. What are those rights and freedoms in Pennsylvania? One of them is, according to our Pennsylvania Constitution, it says we are guaranteed as Pennsylvanians, residents, citizens, whatever you may be, guaranteed to have clean air and pure water. It's in the Constitution. So if you're living someplace right now and you're not experiencing clean air and pure water, you need to be reaching out to your elected officials and saying, my Constitution of Pennsylvania says that I should be having this.
Don't get me on my little soapbox, because our past President Barack Obama went to a certain place and didn't drink the water.
Didn't drink the water.
Didn't drink the water.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't Pennsylvania, though.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't Pennsylvania, but.
You know, there's another right and freedom that is granted by the Pennsylvania Constitution, and that is that public schools, your public education, needs to be thorough and efficient.
Wow.
That is in the Pennsylvania Constitution. Your public education must be thorough and efficient.
Then it would be, how is that defined? How are you defining thorough and efficient?
Well, guess what? The Commonwealth Court determined that just a couple of years ago.
There you go. That's where I was going.
They determined that, and they said that Pennsylvanians, students, young folks attending public schools are not experiencing a thorough and efficient education. And they ruled that to be unconstitutional based upon the way we fund our public schools. We fund public schools in Pennsylvania based on property tax. And that's unfair, right? You can't control where you're born.
That's right.
And if you live in one part of the state versus the other, you might have a completely different experience in education in public schools.
You can go right across. If you in West Philadelphia, and if you know anything about one of the longest roads, it will be City Line Avenue. Okay. One side of City Line Avenue, you can go to a school that has a dormitory in it. Literally, it looks like a college, pools and everything.
Yeah.
Right across the street, you can go to another high school that looks like a prison. It's crazy.
And it has metal detectors.
Metal detectors, all type of things. Food is horrible. Everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the happenstance of your birth dictates what type of public education you are receiving here in Pennsylvania. It was the Commonwealth Court that said this is unfair, it is unconstitutional, and they gave it back. They gave this case back to the legislature in Harrisburg and said, fix this. Work it out, fund it appropriately. We're still waiting on that. Yeah, but that was a case out of the Commonwealth Court. And the Pennsylvania Supreme Court agreed with the decision of the Commonwealth Court. And so here it is. And so now we need to reach out to our legislators in Harrisburg and say, all right, the decision was made. Now get to funding.
I know that's right. You know what? I want to read something real quick. Why don't you pass me that up top? Yep. Because I want to read this first passage, and I think that it was really important. Really simple. It says, the Constitution of the United States, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Clap it up. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's beautifully written.
Yeah.
Now, can it be realized for everybody?
But that's a whole nother show.
That's another show.
That's another show.
Come back for episode, whatever number that'll be.
I know, right? That's funny. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I hope that this was your reading rainbow.
Yeah.
That this was your a bill is a bill.
A bill is
I hope that this is hopefully inspiring some folks that may have never voted in a judicial election to come out and vote. Yeah. Please do. Please do. Too many people do not vote in these elections, and it allows for a small minority of people to make the decisions on the bench for the majority of people in Pennsylvania. When you're having turnout of 23, 24, 27%, that's not a lot of people voting. So we need everybody to come out in this election and vote. And if this is your first time voting in judicial election, be prepared for a long ballot. There might be a front page and a back page. Hell, there might be 3 pages, depending upon what county you live in. So be prepared. And I suggest that you all get the ballot before you go into the polls. Take it home with you. Look at it. maybe gather the kids around it, make it as a fun activity for the family. Google some of these folks that are running for office, learn about them, go to some reputable sources that you believe in, nonpartisan organizations perhaps, that you believe will be telling you the truth about who these folks are, like the Pennsylvania Bar Association or other organizations that are doing real good work in a nonpartisan way. Go to these places and find out who these folks are, how they have ruled on cases, how have they interpreted the Pennsylvania Constitution. And if you believe they've done a good job and you'd like to see them sit on the bench for another 10 years, then you know what to do, right? You know what to do.
That's right. I got something for you to do.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell everybody what your shirt say?
Oh, yes. So it's Vote Today, PA.
Yeah,
Vote Today, PA. Right. So this is you're seeing this episode before Election Day, and we can vote before Election Day in Pennsylvania. So if you're voting by mail, those ballots they came out in early October. So you've had the opportunity to have a ballot at your house, looking at it, talking with the family about it, and voting it, and then making sure that you mail it back in or drop it off at a drop box before the deadline, 8 o'clock on Election Day.
That's right.
It has to be in the hands of the polling location, the Board of Elections. It must be in their hands. It can't be in the mail still. Even if you voted it and mailed it off 2 days before the election, if it doesn't arrive on Election Day, it will not count. So if you don't trust the mail, a lot of people aren't trusting the mail right now, just take it into a drop box. If you live in Philadelphia, there's drop boxes all over the place. All right, so we're coming to an end. You powerful Pennsylvania voters, you matter. Your vote matters. Don't let anyone tell you that your vote isn't mattering. It does. And this is what is giving so many of us hope in this moment, that we still have access to the ballot. And you want to vote this year, Pennsylvania, to ensure we can vote in future years, because it's all serious in this moment. So with that, I'm going to sign off. I wish the call to action for all of you all is to talk to some young people in your life. You heard those statistics. Too many young people not registered to vote and not voting. And they have until October 20th to actually get registered to vote in time for this November 4th election. So do the thing, Pennsylvania. Do the right thing. All right. Have a good day. Thank you for being with us. Until we see each other again. I'm Kadita Kenner, and you're watching Slingshot the Podcast, the misunderstood voice, the culture's power.